Good morning and welcome to Jasiri. It's the 12th of August. I can't believe we're already midway through August, but that's where we are. And Christmas is just around the corner, my favorite time of the year. But anyway, it is Youth International Day. Now, I consider myself youthful. I may not be age-wise a youth, but I am youthful. And we're using this first lap to shine a light on Nigeria's youth. It is the largest youth population in Africa and one of the most dynamic in the world. In Nigeria alone, over 60% are under 25. That's a force for innovation, for activism, and change. But it also means that our young people face unique challenges that demand urgent attention.
Our young people have been shown time and time again that with the right motivation, opportunities and support, they can stand shoulder to shoulder with the best anywhere in the world. Just look at Ira Star and Rema flying a flag globally. And that's just to mention a few. There's young Nafisa Abdullah, who recently made a global academic record, the Super Falcons showing unmatched resilience on the pitch, and of course, our athletes making us proud on the international stage.
Well, International Youth Day is a day to acknowledge the potential, creativity, and energy of our youth and to charge them to keep pushing, keep dreaming, and keep proving that they belong not just in Nigeria's story, but in the global conversation. Because with the right environment, there is no limit to what they can achieve. Now, from music to sports to activism to innovation, the Nigerian youth is indeed a force. But beyond celebrating them, we must also acknowledge that our young people today face unique challenges that demand urgent attention. We must also ask questions like, are we providing the right platforms, the right policies, the protections to help them thrive locally, let alone internationally? And why are the youths of Nigeria chosen, or why have they chosen to japa and leave the country?
Okay. Everyone's just looking for, I guess everyone's looking for stability, things that work, functionality. I've said it before on this table that people leave or people japa for different reasons. A lot of people can't just decide to japa because of health. Our health system is deplorable. People can decide to japa based on education. Just education. Some it's just healthcare. Some I just need to live a better life, even if I'm working mad hours, even if I'm doing even if I'm working double shifts. I just want to be in an environment where
that
things work.
Yeah.
So I think the bottom line, the denomination, is that they just want a system that works. That's it.
You know, and the funny thing is, no matter how strict the other countries, the measures are in the other countries, you still find Nigerians who find a way around it and still decide to japa. Because look at some of the challenges that we face. Nigerian youths are facing high rate of unemployment or underemployment. There's a lot of corruption in the country. A Nigerian youth cannot even afford the basic necessities. They cannot feed themselves. They cannot, even those who have jobs, how much do they even earn in the first place?
Exactly. So there's a Dashen, you are right, because there's a tendency for you to go down the wrong path, if we must call it, because the truth is that it looks bleak. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you want to start a business, no matter how small it is, some people just don't have the means, the capital, someone to invest in them, someone to say, okay, take like 30K to start something, take 50K. And then the youth, they're looking at it as if and saying that, what's 50K? 50K. Like, and there's also the perspective that young people have, where we say they feel entitled, that everything should belong to them. You're in a conversation with young people now, you hear some of them say, oh, I need to change my wig and that's it. If I can just do this, that's the beginning. Listen, it's a potpourri.
I think that we need to have more highlights, if you will, more attention, if you will, more glorification, if you want to call it that, of the young people that are doing phenomenal things.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough conversation or information about them.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't have enough attention and enough highlight of what some of these people are doing amazingly, right? That the narrative that young people, all they want to do now is to blow. All they're interested in now is to become content creators and make easy money. And you, to an extent, right? You kind of have to look at the lives. You kind of have to look at the environments that they're in right now, and the times that we're in. And can you really blame them?
True.
Can you really blame them for thinking that that's the way?
It's
right?
interesting. This thing
you can't. You can't. To a large extent, you can't.
My mother used to say that time, oh, be in a place, and I could understand that because as a parent, you know, you just want your child to be stable. And my mother would say, oh, you know, be somewhere where you can work to the time where you'll be eligible to collect pension and gratuity.
You know, the problem is our parents...
can't say that to the youth of today.
Exactly. Our parents think, you know, it's the same thing with their time. You know, it's the same thing we're experiencing. They forget that it was a lot easier in their time. Yeah. They had structure. They had leaders who cared genuinely about them. Yeah, there are issues,
yes,
but you know, it worked. It was working. Nigeria was working back then. You can't compare it to now. You cannot.
If you know, Blessings, when she was on the show, she used to say, we can't get any backer than this. You know, you would think that when you have seen it or you have heard it or it can't get any worse.
Any backer.
Dashen, Bukky, it's getting worse on a daily steady. I keep saying, you want to plot the graph of the growth of this country, steady, there would be, without a doubt, a steady decline. If you want to plot this graph from, let's say, 2020 to 2025, there would be a steady decline in the standard of living of Nigerians. And that isn't, if you want to take the temperature of the country and the people, by using that, then it means that we are really ill.
From what I know and from what I've seen, the youths are no longer interested in moving the country forward.
They're not interested.
They're just in it for themselves. They're now selfish. They're trying to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
You know, to make the money, to be who they are. So many youth.
I think they are disenfranchised. I think they're disenfranchised. I think some of them are disillusioned. I think that they don't believe that the country has anything to offer them anymore.
True. So they hold on
from
to
hoping and holding on for too long.
Yes, and I actually think that the NSAS saga was a huge detriment, and a huge I don't know supporter or purporter of this disenfranchisement that has happened, because this was something that they believed in, right? This was something that they really believed in. So I that in my own estimation. All right. So in my estimation, I'm thinking that there needs to be hope. There needs to be hope for the young people. There needs to be something that they can believe in again. There needs to be inclusion. Yeah. You know, there was something that I heard on a podcast some weeks ago, and this guy was talking about a brand that he brought into the country. And I remember him saying something along these lines, is that you cannot create something for the youth. You have to create with them in mind.
Yes.
Like, because the people who are oh, we want to bring this company, we want to bring this brand, their generation and the younger generation, they're light years apart, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're using your sense of the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, right, to be creating things for people that are born in the 2000s,
you have missed the point completely.
You've
missed the point completely. Young people are defining what they want from life. In fact, they're taking the bull by the horns. They are.
But even those who are defining what they want in life, sometimes they feel like, the only thing they can resort to is violence or even vices. Take a look at, the insecurity, the alarming rate of insecurity everywhere, not just the north, everywhere. People are being kidnapped on a daily basis. Remember the recent story of the guy who sells fish, who was killed. He was kidnapped, and they demanded 10 million naira. It was in Anambra, I think so. And he was killed, even at that.
So there's also sprinkles of desperation. Listen, that's why I said
There is.
it's a potpourri of everything. Sometimes people just want to survive, and in surviving, you know, I'll tell people, don't wish to be put in a position where you have to do dastardly things to survive. Because sitting here, we can all say that, no, it's not my portion, I can't. Why would I even think of doing that? Hey!
You never know what you would do
Lord.
until you're put in a situation
I'm
where
serious.
you have to do something out of desperation. I mean, you talked about education. What is the state of our education system right now? You talk about health. Have you seen the public hospitals? Have you seen what's going on there?
You know,
Even the healthcare centers.
Even the healthcare centers.
Yeah.
And then this. In fact, let's go back to education. Let's go back to how the fact that you stay in university for 6-7 years.
Yes.
We talked about education yesterday.
Yeah, we
we talked
did.
about students of
Yeah.
Unical,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
6-7 years, and all of a sudden somebody comes and tells you it's not valid. Where do you go from there? You write JAM for
don't
4
go.
years.
And then when someone like that, resorts to violence, what do you say? You say, oh, Nigeria happened to them. It was the system that failed them.
And that's why I say there will always be talk of jackpying, because you cannot live as a parent. You have to have the I don't know, wisdom of Job, or what do they call it? You have to have some kind of staying power to keep you from seeking greener pastures, because this education, the fundamental, what they call the bedrock of society. This is education.
Or even the parents are
If you cannot
disenfranchised.
give,
Things are changing. Things are changing. Look at what's happening in America, right? And all the new visa rules and this, that, and the other.
Tariffs and
Look
all.
at UAE that used to be so open.
Exactly.
Now you can't go. If you're alone, you can't go. If you're under 45, I believe you have. If you're under 45
and you're single,
You
don't
go
get
to
a
Dubai.
visa into the UAE.
It's interesting you're talking about
Look
this.
at the
because
UK.
Look at
And
Canada.
Look at
Forget
Canada.
UK.
That's why
I said,
everything
yeah.
is changing. So
Stricter
yes,
measures.
JAPA will continue to happen. But I think that all these different things are happening across the country and even in Europe, how it's getting more and more difficult, is going to make people start to rethink the decisions, the choices that they have, rethink how they can reintegrate into this country, the country that they're in.
She even went to Europe. Let's come back to Africa. In Ghana, there was a protest. Nigeria must go. You go to South Africa, you find the same thing. Xenophobic attacks and everything. It was just yesterday that I was talking about, how South Africans protested against immigrants and asylum seekers getting healthcare services in their country.
So, okay.
It's not supposed to be bleak, but the situation on ground, I mean, we cannot also be disenfranchised from the reality that we are seeing. So we hope that the young people of Nigeria and the young people around the world can find something to hope for, something to hope to or hope in, believe in, and I hope that we can leave a better world for the young people that are coming up behind us. It is a deep conversation, but we have deeper conversations to have this morning. So after the break, a social justice advocate, our own Kathleen Ndongmo, will be joining us to talk about the recent happenings and the incidents surrounding the aviation industry. We'll be right back after this.
All right, welcome back to the show. You're still watching Jasiri right here on News Central. The incident we are here to unpack this morning, we mentioned on the show yesterday, involved a female passenger and an air hostess at Ibom Air. Though we mentioned the story yesterday, a lot has happened since then. So let's start with a quick recap as seen online. So, on the 10th of August, aboard an Uyo Lagos Ibom Air flight, Ms. Comfort Emmanson refused to power off her mobile phone prior to takeoff. She only complied after a fellow passenger intervened, prompting her to launch into a verbal tirade. We don't exactly have the details that led to the confrontation, but we saw the video online of a confrontation. Fast forward to when the plane lands at MM2 terminal, we see another video where she's forcibly removed from the aircraft by male airport crew. Unfortunately, we can't show that one because of her wardrobe mishap as she continues to struggle. But in the end, she was handed over to the police and now faces multiple charges, including assault and destruction of property, and has been remanded at Kirikiri Prison till the 6th of October.
Well, since the incident, Ibom Air wasted no time to respond. She's now permanently banned from flying with Ibom Air. The matter was also reported to the Civil Aviation Authority, and the airline doubled down on its zero-tolerance policy for unruly behavior. In a statement, FAN's Director of Public Affairs, Obiageli Ora, said disruptive passenger behavior is entirely unacceptable and will not be tolerated. The agency stressed it will strictly enforce penalties under aviation laws, ICAO Annex 17, and Nigeria's civil aviation regulations. The airline operators of Nigeria have also placed her on a life ban. The Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, also released a statement where he condemned not just the alleged unruly behavior of the passenger, but also the release of a compromising video that exposed parts of her body. He called it deplorable, totally unacceptable, and a debasement of womanhood. However, with all this move happening with just 24 hours, it's interesting to point out that we haven't actually heard from Ms. Comfort herself. Joining us now to dive deeper into this is Kathleen Ndongmo. I hope I pronounced that.
Yes, you did.
Ndongmo. Ndongmo.
Yes, ma'am.
Our very own, but also a social justice advocate.
Yes, so.
I know that we are ready to hit him,
Of
but
course
there's
we
a
are.
lot to unpack.
There's
a lot.
Yes, definitely.
So here's the thing.
Just before you start.
Yes, ma'am.
This is, quite a disheartening incident. And just like Bukky has actually said, we're yet to hear from the lady. We've heard from, the airline. We've heard from the minister. We've heard from the hostess. What about the lady? It's been quiet all along. And, somebody told me this morning, the person said, according to, there's a proverb from their place that if you don't get both sides of the story and you judge, then you're worse than the devil. So right now, this is an incident where, it involves a female passenger whose human rights, many have actually argued, were violated, and whose voice is quiet. We're not hearing. She's not coming out to speak. Would like to know what your opinion is on the matter and what you feel about this.
I think last week I was following something that an industry thought leader wrote, and she said it's insane to live in an insane environment where you just become insane. And that hit me because we're experiencing, in my opinion, we're experiencing the breakdown of emotional intelligence in Nigeria in general. We're experiencing Nigeria's report card in emotional intelligence from every side, whether it's the agencies or the passengers or the crew. Every single one tells us that we have an F9 in emotional intelligence in this country, and we need to begin to look at that. We are poor in emotional intelligence, we are poor in social etiquette, and we are poor in extending humanity to one another, because you would think that someone would stop and say, let's dissect what we call in customer service the root cause analysis of this matter. What happened? How did it happen? Why did it happen? What made it worse? How do we resolve it? And how do we ensure that it doesn't happen again? But what we're getting is, for want of a better word, emotional reactions. We're being reactive as opposed to being proactive. And it falls down to how we're cultured. We talk about, in Francophone Africa, we talk about la culture de la mentalité de quelqu'un, the culture of your mentality. How are you raised? What do we teach our children? What do we enforce? Our parents say it is good to have a good name, than anything. And we have experienced how elders before us have misbehaved, have malfunctioned across their own time of taking the same service. And you would think that the public sector should be one of the focal points of emotional intelligence in a country, because they are the ones who deal with citizens' needs at every single point in time. So I'm completely appalled at how, and that's the context I'm coming from, how this is being dealt with.
Okay, Atan, let's look at the alacrity, swiftness, you might call it, that the government responded to this. I mean, it was within 24 hours was a response.
Less than.
Wow. So,
Meanwhile, we're still waiting for Kwam 1.
Cesar, so my first thought was that, wow. So we can respond this immediately. Why is it that? Why do you think that sometimes the government is quick to respond in cases and other cases are just allowed to drag, and then it's that people are not important, some people are more superior than others? What do you think?
It's selective stereotyping. That's all it is. There's no other way to explain this. You walk into an airline or a plane, you see a lady seated. I've seen some comments that said she was a girl. Yeah? And I ask myself, how do you know for a fact that she is a whatever girl? And why would you tag and label her in that manner? Yeah. And how does that associate to the issue on ground? So we come from positions of selective stereotyping, and it's the mentality across Nigeria of, I better pass my neighbor. So you look at this person and you judge them, not based on the situation and the context of the text of the law and the law of the text. You decide that I'm going to judge this person based off of how I perceive who they are, what they have. I've been in this country where I've gone to places and I've exited, and the first question I've been asked was, Madam, where did you park? And I have to say, I know come with car, right? So you're judged on what you have, where you live, who your friends are, what your name is, who your family is, what the worth of your bank account is. And by that extension, they decide to, let's charge her quickly. Let's apprehend her quickly. You could have done the same for John and for Peter and for Jane and for Olivia. But you decided that in this situation, I'll do it this way because I have labeled her, I have tagged her, and there's a mentality that says that in this country, every animal is equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
I think what we usually have and what we were trying to explain earlier is it's a knee-jerk reaction. You know, when you go to a doctor and they hit like a metal hammer on your knee and you go poof.
So that's
it's a knee-jerk reaction, because I think that what Kwam 1 did was even worse.
I feel so.
And it is akin to hijacking a plane. I think that's even worse. And it amazes me because this morning I was hearing fragments of different sides of the story. Because up until this morning, I wasn't quite sure exactly what happened and how it got there, how it got to this point. Okay, so she refused to turn off her phone. Okay, usually on a plane, you put it on flight mode, you're fine. Somebody recollected her phone.
That's according to one side.
According to one side.
Another side said that, you know...
What's the actual story?
Exactly.
So if we never hear from her, if we don't hear from her, if we haven't heard from her up until this point, and we don't have reliable eyewitness accounts from the people that were in the plane, from the person that sat beside her that connected her phone, how do we really get, like you said, how do we really get to understand what the issue was, or what the issue was at hand? How did it escalate? How could it have been de-escalated? How do we ever get to find out what really happened?
Absolutely, and these are the issues that we have in the service industry, especially in the public sector. We come from positions where we have people who are neither passionate about their jobs, competent for the job, skilled for the job, upskilled for the job. And so, you know, if you are a frequent flyer, you would have experienced one or many of the service gaps that exist in the aviation industry in Nigeria. And so this is, I was telling someone yesterday that this is a complete implosion of industries in Nigeria. This is the implosion of the aviation industry, and we might see this across other industries as we do not correct and close service gaps that exist in these industries. Because how do you hold someone accountable without an investigation, which is what you just asked? It's an aberration, for want of a better word.
Them, they'll tell you they investigated, but it took them this long to investigate hers. But we're still waiting for, Kwam's investigation to conclude. It doesn't really make sense. And this is not the first time this is happening. Apparently, there have been a few incidents. One happened in 2019 when Dana Air offloaded a passenger after an onboard altercation. No lifetime ban was allowed, right? 2023, Air Peace blacklisted 3 unruly passengers from London to Lagos. But again, no formal criminal prosecution. In 2025, Senator Oshomole, right, was denied boarding on a Lagos to Abuja flight.
I remember that.
And allegedly barricaded, he barricaded an Air Peace terminal, assaulting his staff. There was no punishment. And we're seeing the incident with Kwam. In fact, that same Ibom Air, you remember, you saw the video of the lady a few months ago who decided that since her luggage was not included, was not flying with her, the plane will not fly. And they were so calm with her. They were even saying, while the passengers were erratic, they were saying, no, there's nothing we can do about it. Let her come out. It's so sad that this happened.
Our nation is bereft of organization. We're bereft of excellence. To be honest, we just, like she said, we just knee-jerk. For this one, we will treat like this. For that one, we will treat like this. And these are not things that we can continue to condone. At least I say it, and let me not predict anything bad after this. We'll have another worse one tomorrow if we do not checkmate the sort of things that are happening in the industry.
I did say yesterday that we have an administrative problem.
We have all levels.
No, at all levels. At all levels, definitely we have an administrative problem. Now, I was saying that what Kwam did was more what was worse. Yeah. And I'm not condoning her behavior. I'm not condoning the violence or whatnot. But we don't. I also said yesterday that people are on the brink. We don't know what triggered her. We don't know what provoked her.
Guys, let's take a short break here. Let's pause first for a bit. When we return, the conversation continues here on Jasiri. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Jasiri. Kathleen has said what is good for the goose is good for the gander, or and we've heard that statement a few times since last week. But let's find out what let's get some reactions from the public, because people have differing opinions about what's going on, what's happening with this particular case compared to what's happened with Kwam. And it's time to take some reaction. So let's hear what people are saying, and then we come back and talk about it.
All right, a lady assaults air hostess. She gets banned from traveling by air for life and faces prison sentence. Wasiu Ayinde assaulted a pilot, obstructed a whole plane from flying, and gets no punishment. Like I always say, laws in Nigeria are only meant for the poor, not the rich. This is from Basa Principal. When you strip someone naked, you're in violation of that person's constitutional right to dignity. You should also be charged under harassment or public indecency laws. These could attract 2 years imprisonment. When will that Ibom Air hostess be charged also?
Okay, this one says, this from Aisha Sufu. She says, Adams Oshomole was not remanded. King Wasiu Ayinde was not remanded. No Nigerian is more Nigerian than any Nigerian. Selective justice is injustice. What is good for the goose is good for the gander.
I always advocate for ladies to wear good supportive bra. It is very important. Kate Henshaw. You never know when a situation like this might occur. This was not good at all. I know even see this video.
Simi here says, so let's say the lady is actually mad and did too much. Someone recorded her being dragged off the plane, recorded her being exposed like that, and then posted it without editing out this exposure, even blurring it out, laughing out loud. I personally want to know who posted that video and why no one is holding him or her accountable, because Auntie will face the law, but voluntarily posting her half naked for millions of people to see when less than 10 people actually witnessed it in the first place deserves punishment too.
This woman deserved all that happened to her. She should have adhered to instructions. That's the first point Ekong is saying. Second point is, you all complaining about the way the security treated her. Have you read the press release to see what happened yet? What different measures do you think should have been taken?
See, let's leave social media for a bit.
Wait, sis. This lady was handled and stripped naked by Ibom Air crew before handing her to the police. This was carefully planned to disgrace the passenger. If standard operating procedures are strictly followed, switch off your phone should not lead to chaos of this magnitude. All right, so Peter Obi wrote a long one. The unfortunate and dishonorable drama witnessed in Ibom Air has again brought to the fore the double standards in our lives and the inadequacies of our various security operatives in acting decently and in a civilized manner. He starts by apologizing to the crew who were assaulted by Miss Comfort, and as a society, says should learn and uphold good conduct. However, he says, I must strongly condemn the dehumanizing treatment meted out to this young woman. Stripping her publicly was not only unnecessary, but also represents a height of rascality and abuse by our agencies. That is unacceptable, as she was hurriedly taken to court and remanded, while someone who visibly held the plane from taking off and put hundreds of lives at risk is still at large, with government agencies and some state officials speaking up for him to be forgiven. This case is not just about one young woman. It's about the double standards that poison our justice system. Justice in the country must never be about who is poor or powerless versus who has influence or access to government officials. So the former presidential candidate makes a valid point, and you know, as with him, he itemizes it in detail, and he has a point, I must say.
I also think, I'm sorry, there was a thought before I disparage horns. I also think that it has something to do with the way women are treated in this country as well. Beyond, you know, because if it was a guy, he wouldn't have been stripped naked. Even if he got physical, he wouldn't have been. He wouldn't have been stripped.
Sometimes when people jump up and say, it's not a gender war, it's not a gender war, the first thing that comes to my head is, you're probably not in touch with the reality of the society in which you live. We live in a highly patriarchal, misogynistic society. And that permeates every single thing that we do at different levels in different contexts. So let me bring context into this before people hit me and say, it's not a gender war. We need to be we need to dissect how we see these things. There was a Kwam one who looked and saw a woman, you know, pilot. If he were a man who was the pilot, what do you think his reaction would have been? Now, you switch it, and you have a female passenger, you know, faced with this throng of people, from the crew to the security officials. And I ask the question, what is it about our society that always feels that when there is an issue involving a woman, we must degrade her, we must humiliate her, we must drag her, we must disrobe her? What is it about that mentality, and how do we fix that mentality in the society that we are in?
Can we fix it?
Well, ask Catherine.
Can we fix it? It is disturbing, though.
It's disturbing.
It is disturbing, but maybe Catherine has a solution.
No. We should all be very concerned. We should all be very worried about a woman being disrobed and exposed like this over an issue that could have been de-escalated.
Somebody asked, somebody said there was no other way that, you know, that issue would have been. But I feel there are lots of other ways, because two wrongs don't make a right. Right? You see someone being hysterical, someone shouting, attacking, ready to kick and punch you. What do you do as the other person, except you're willing to go all out? You be the calmer one. Do you understand? Talk to her calmly, find ways to, even if it means convince her, lie to her about something.
Nobody
and
can
move
talk
her-
to anybody calmly.
Do you understand? Move her
People are
out
dealing
of the
with a
plane
lot.
without
Is it not on
necessarily
this table that we
fighting
sat down
and
to talk
dragging
about
her?
how mad people are? People are walking. Listen,
Don't
people
the
are
airlines
walking
have
traumas.
therapists?
That's it.
We
should
sat
have
here,
therapists that
Dashen,
will
and
talk
said
to people
yesterday
like
that
that.
even the
Dashen.
therapists need therapy.
Dashen.
We said it here.
I understand, but then that would have been a calmer way. Do you understand? There are ways that
But
she would have been brought
I see
out
where
of
you're
the
coming.
plane.
I see where you're coming from. Surely, even if we do not have these competencies, maybe it's about time we begin to look at these competencies. It takes a lot for a client to be in a position where they apologize to. I found it very difficult across African countries. So many African countries for people to look at you and say,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So does apology erase the fact that you acted that way? For Kwam one now, does it erase what he did? If so, let her apologize and then let them strike out every other
That's one way to look at it. But then
She's even
again,
talking from the
our
client
service
side.
providers hardly ever say, I'm sorry.
Especially when it's time for them to increase the prices of plane tickets, flight tickets.
No.
When it's time for them to cancel flights, no apology
Nobody
whatsoever.
says, "I'm sorry."
When it's time for them to delay flights as
Absolutely.
if they are cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You'd be there from morning till night, and your flight won't move.
They will lose
They
your
apologize.
luggage.
Exactly.
They
Will
will
they
be
apologize?
shocked.
So holds them responsible.
The same way that Nigeria has become, or Nigerians have become governments unto themselves just because they feel that the government has failed them on so many levels. That's exactly what it is that happened here. I can bet you for free. Now, when that incident started in the aircraft, some people just sat down and were watching. Higher, some will say, it's okay now, sister, it's okay.
Yeah.
Some will just, first of all, take out their phones and put on the camera and start recording. Instead of, you're talking about de-escalating. No, we won't de-escalate. Have you been in
We
a
will
place
escalate.
where people will escalate? We'll actually just sit back and do
You people
nothing
should fight.
and just be observing.
And you have to think about how people regard social media as a be-all and end-all.
Absolutely.
You know, there's an accident, and rather than you see what you can do to help, you bring out your phone and record. Two people are fighting, young teenagers, school children are fighting and tearing their clothes from each other. You pick up your phone and you record. We do not understand, I think, majorly, how to step in and help. Now, it could be for many reasons. It could be for various reasons.
Yeah.
But I think it also comes back to that thing of when you look at people, you size them up
And profile them.
You
Yeah.
profile them. You
Yeah,
know, are they worth my time? Are they worth my help?
See how we take things, for example. They've labeled this one, what, Kwam 2. In our minds now, we're catching cruise. Now.
Yeah.
Hey,
We
vibes and inshallah.
There's a lot happening in Nigeria. Let the drama unfold.
Exactly, and
Every
this,
day, one
this
thing
is
or
one
the
of the
other.
things that I found really weird yesterday. You know, a group of people sit down and they decide it's jeering time. You know, we've gotten another free video of something that we go and get somewhere. You know, and a society cannot progress on an absolute lack of humanity. And on the other side of things, and we have to mention it on this platform because that's what Jasiri is about, bold conversations, we as people need to hold ourselves accountable to how we behave in society. So for Ms. Comfort, it was also important, you know, to have a sense of emotional intelligence, which, like I say, it's hard to actually. Emotional intelligence is life. Life will humble you. Life will expose you if you cannot hold your control your emotions. So on her side, no, I don't think anybody on this table is condoning, you know, how she behaved. You don't put your hands on anybody for any reason whatsoever. So she was completely wrong to have done that. And I said yesterday that two truths can coexist as we dissect this issue. The context is clear. The crew, the service, like the airline, were wrong. Comfort was wrong. Here's the thing. How do we bridge this thing to make sure that we have a lasting solution that does not happen again? You don't just pick one person and throw a
lasting solution.
They don't want
Come on.
solutions. They actually wanted a scapegoat.
This is not about
because it's
scapegoat
been
and
happening
chaos.
for many times.
They're not looking
It
for
was about
solutions.
finding a scapegoat.
They're looking for, now they found their scapegoat and everything is, and which is worrisome because you would expect her to say something. Let's hope that she will still say something to correct impressions, because what we are left with are perceptions and perspectives and subject to interpretation as we see fit.
And also, why did they feel the need to immediately take her to Kirikiri prison, arrest her, before even being judged?
If you
Well, I mean,
know
you
the
can arrest
conditions.
somebody for unruly behavior. You can arrest somebody for attacking because she was attacking not just when she was brought
But
down
they have
or forced down.
holding cells or holding rooms in the airport. Why not leave her there?
I think you are. I think you're overthinking it. Dashen.
At the end of the day, they said that she could not
Honestly.
meet bail conditions. So
Really?
that's what I read. That she had the opportunity to have bail, and she couldn't meet those conditions, and therefore they remanded her for those reasons.
sorry.
And we have all the counts that have been put against her.
You're talking about bail, but
Yes.
I read something yesterday. The Civil Aviation Act 2022, Section 59, states that it criminalizes violent or disruptive acts at the airport.
Absolutely.
Punishable by life imprisonment or a 10 million naira fine.
Okay, I know where you're
How
going with
much?
this. Yeah.
How much fine has Kwam paid?
I knew that.
On that note,
I knew that's where she
we
was
will
going.
come back. We
Yep.
will come back to. There is still a little bit more to have to discuss on this table. In fact, there's more because the story is still unfolding. But all that when we come back from this break. See you in a moment.
This is the home stretch of Jasiri here on News Central. And during the break, we're having conversations that with the alacrity and swiftness that Comfort Bob was taken
I'm
to...
sorry, did you say conversations?
No. Conversations. For far too long in this country, we've had the issue of accountability in the country. And there's been the issue of people taking responsibility. Why the swift reaction? Hear from everyone, but not in cases involving powerful people or politicians. So I was saying during the break, why with the alacrity and swiftness which Comfort Bob was taken to court, why wasn't the same alacrity and swiftness applied to the Kwam 1 case?
Why would it be? We live in a nation where, and Bukky was talking about how it's important for us to also hold ourselves accountable.
Yes.
Well, here's the reason most of us don't hold ourselves accountable to anything. We live in a nation with two opposing sides. One is that let me make enough money that I will use to oppress you.
Yes, sir.
And on the other side is that when you have a lot of money, anything you do
Can be forgiven.
is forgiven.
Yeah.
You can get away with just about anything. And so that mentality, again, that culture remains in the heads of generations of people that we can get away with anything as far as we have a name, a pocket, a bank account, and all that. These are the same people who would go to other societies and your name, your money would do nothing for you. Why? Because the systems and the structures that are in place will hold you accountable.
But we are not even helping matters as Nigerians.
I want to.
Everybody is
I want to
standing-
sit on this point that you just
Sit on
made,
it.
Catherine, because if she was on a flight to London and the air hostess told her, "Turn off your phone," with immediate alacrity,
She would turn it
the
off.
phone. I want us to be balanced. Right? Because there are several issues here at play.
Yeah.
The incident has become viral because of what it is and because of what has happened. But we also need to go back and, as you said, and trace the why did it happen? Who is responsible for XYZ? Who is taking responsibility for their own actions and choices and
Nobody.
decisions?
Nobody.
Absolutely.
And like I said,
And it comes back to how we behave in society, how we behave in societies that have rules, how
And
we behave
enforce them.
and enforce them, how we behave in societies that don't enforce them or selectively enforce them. It
Exactly.
comes back to that story.
you see, I've been, and I think all of us have been in positions where we have flown, locally traveled, and you're told to put off your phone, to turn it off. You still see some people, passengers, who struggle to put it. They turn it off when some don't even turn it off. Some turn it off when the plane is already taking
They
off.
just lock it and
They
drop
just
the
lock
phone.
it. They do it so lackadaisically.
Yeah.
I observed that, and I also observed that staff, airline staff, have been polite. Oh, I'm sorry, sir, please, can you put off your phone? I'm sorry, ma'am, can you please turn off your phone? Can you put your bag under the seat? Can you do this? Can you do that? I haven't been fortunate to see this kind of escalation of put off your phone. I haven't seen. So that's what I'm saying.
Where an air hostess
Yeah.
stood on one person and said, turn off your phone. You must turn off your phone.
That is the missing
it's
piece.
a problem.
I would like to.
I think it's going to come back to this. Have you ever driven into, you got to an estate, maybe an estate that has 2 gates, one for residents and another gate that is far. In fact, you don't even need to go far. Magodo or Mole, there are plenty, right? Yeah. You get to, as a resident, because you don't have a sticker on your car, you get to the gate for residents, and even though the security man knows you, he has become the landlord of that gate.
Yeah.
It doesn't know
when we are in places of power. No, I'm saying when
they
we
are
are in
greeting the
places.
car. They are greeting the car.
No, forget the car. Forget the car. When we are in places of power, as tiny as you can give us,
exactly.
we want to exercise that power. We do. So the air hostess at this point is in a place of power. I can tell you to turn off your phone, and if you don't turn it off, I can throw you off this plane. I can deal with you. And I can size you up and see how exactly to deal with you. That's a mentality we need to check.
Are you the one teaching me my job?
That's the mentality we need to check.
Let's also not forget that, these incidents happened, between or with 2 different airlines. So while ValueJet decided not to push further, Ibom Air decided to take it to court, and this is where we are at the moment. So if they had decided not to, move further with it and decided to, settle it at the airport or in their office, then it wouldn't have led to this. And then the minister did say that the person who posted the video was a staff, and that staff would be found and would be sanctioned. We're yet to hear who the staff is, what happened to the staff.
You think if Kate Henshaw was on that plane, if it was Kate Henshaw and you think it would have escalated to that point, even if she did not turn off the phone, that somebody beside her snatched the phone from her to turn it on her behalf. On her behalf. I don't even know the English that I'm speaking anymore.
Speak pidgin.
No, I'm just, look.
It's worrisome.
It is worrisome because it is selective. It's selective justice, as you said. It's selective stereotyping, as you said. It is all selective. And somehow, we will talk about this and it will die and nothing will change.
For me, well, okay, let me not.
We also saw so many people. We saw what do you call them, high and mighty, coming out to speak on behalf of Kwam 1. Who speaks for Kwam 2?
Who speaks for comfort? We speak for comfort. That is why I'm a social justice advocate. We need to be able to speak for people, even in their worst state, especially in their worst state.
So where do you see this ending? Where do you see this scenario for both incidents and also probably what would you like to see happen? 2 things. Where do you see this going, ending, and what would you like to see?
I see comfort being an scapegoat unless the society says, you know what, enough is enough. And we have to, as human beings, we have to be able to count on other people. In the world of advocacy, we say that when one person is meted with injustice, the person has to expect that the society will fight for them, especially in situations like this. The only thing we must hold comfort for is aggressive behavior, which none of us on this table can say we don't have. Me, I have my moments of madness.
Everybody
needs the police. We all have it, right? So we should be able to extend a little bit of grace to this lady and say, how might we help you to become emotionally intelligent? Now, as per the other question, if we do not fix our public sector and the agencies that we have, even private sector, we're going to have worse implosion that would happen across industries, whether it's the healthcare industry, aviation industry, financial industry. I mean, I can talk about the banks from here till tomorrow, but we cannot continue to have systems that have consistent service gaps that we use and pick and choose who we're going to give good service to and who we're not going to give good service to. Otherwise, we just have a complete implosion in our private and public sector.
Honestly, because even Miss Comfort wasn't given an opportunity to even speak for herself from when they dragged her off the plane to when she was arrested. You know, she wasn't given an opportunity. But we hope that, you know, people, good, meaningful people out there, you know, are able to step in for her and, you know, make sure that everything is sorted out as soon as possible. And also, please, let's try as much as we can to be kind to each other, a little bit kinder, because you do not know what the next person sitting close to you is going through. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for your time.
Always a pleasure
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
being here. It was
Enchanté. I know it means nothing, but I don't know.
All right, with that, at the end, do not forget, social justice is not about selective empathy. It is about fairness, equality, and the assurance that everyone's rights matter regardless of status. Bye for now.
See you tomorrow.